Hey everybody, I am here with Tyler and Mercedes in the Fantasy Flight streaming studio, which I gotta say is just like the coolest thing. Finally see it in person, yes. It's
awesome.
Yeah,
I was blown away the first time I saw it. It's so official looking.
Yeah.
And I get to feel so cool when I'm in front of the whole the whole booth.
Yeah, for like when we do like podcasts and streams and stuff, like this would be like the dream. It's just
Oh yeah.
We don't have any money, so
you get to have a broadcaster stage and everything.
Yeah, for sure.
Our marketing team's done a really good job about setting all this stuff up and continually helping it evolve and adding on all the bright bits and stuff. Like I was so excited when we did the live stream the other day and the light colors changed.
Oh yeah, that was a neat.
They didn't tell me that was going to happen.
Yeah.
They just said, "Here's the clicker. You use the clicker to advance the background." And I said, "Okay, cool. I know when I want to advance the background." And then surprise, also color changes.
It was very
very
nice.
fun.
Yes.
High quality.
And speaking of that art stream, so that's kind of what we're here to talk about today, is a little bit more of the art and graphic design of Star Wars Unlimited. And I know on the art stream they kind of mentioned you just changed job positions here. So do you want to kind of
Yeah, for sure.
What,
so now officially my new role is creative director for all of the visuals for Star Wars Unlimited. So of course that includes the art, which we've talked a lot about, and of course the graphic design, which in my opinion is the unsung hero, because there's the art, the illustrations themselves that come in as one big piece, but then there's literally everything else that you see in the game, all the logos and textures and fonts and color choices and the visual language and all that stuff.
Yeah, like the con exclusive boxes. Like this new one is great, but even the one from last year was just, I've still got, even though I've taken all the cards out of it, I've still got it set up, it's on display, and beyond just the look of it, the design of like how it slides out and you've got the little pocket for the cards and stuff in there, it was just like I was blown away, frankly.
Yeah, it was really nice because those are some of the first time we've been able to use some of those production techniques and be able to work with like soft touch paper in a product.
The soft touch is what makes me happy.
Yeah, and like the cold foil and embossing and all that other stuff. Like Star Wars Unlimited is just really a gem where we've been able to play with a lot of that stuff on like the factory kind of side, like where it gets into the real technical stuff. In addition to just, of course, the art itself, which is beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I love it. But I would say, as far as the art goes, I think we've seen a progression of the art as it's gone on. Yeah. Like, how would you say it's kind of changed over like the last 5 sets here?
Yeah, so from my perspective, I honestly think that it is, as you said, an evolution. Like, I think we had a really strong vision for what we wanted to do in set 1, but it was the first time we kind of done everything that we were wanting. And so it was the first time that we were doing a lot of things. And so there was a lot of learning and a lot of kind of stubbing our toes here and there and figuring out how to make the best possible product that we could in the time frame that we had with the constraints of budgetary, accounting and all that stuff. And so what's really great is like the game was released and had a really good reception and all of that energy and all of that good response and of course good sales and all that other stuff has sort of doubled down on the fact that it's like, okay, like we're ready, like we're in this now and we can really hone in on the things that are working for us. Our artist pool continues to grow and get refined every single set. So, like we can bring on new talent and like other talent might rotate out, based on their availability or if something was working or not working within a set. And so it just allows us an ability to adapt and just continually learn and grow on an ongoing basis.
Yeah. And the first set was intentionally experimental, right? Because on the one hand, we had a vision for what we wanted the art style to be, but on the other hand, we had a limited pool of artists, more limited than we have now, for sure. But also, the identity of a trading card game is that not every card is for everyone. And so the idea that some card would be beloved by one person and other people actively don't want it encourages trading.
Yeah, I think Jabba the Hutt is a good example of that. I hands down my favorite art in the first set, but I know the more stylized look to him wasn't to everyone's taste, but I would take anybody's Jawas that they want to get rid of. I love it.
But the other advantage to being experimental is it let us see which styles were more popular,
Yes.
so that we could just be like, oh, well, if this is the one that the most people want, we'll just focus more on this. Whereas if the answer is this is the one that people want, but this is the only one we did, then instead the feedback is nobody likes it, or most people don't like it, but we don't know what they do like because we only did 1 or 2 styles in the first set. So that's why we tried to do lots of styles in the first set, to try to cast a wide net, see what people like, do that.
Yeah, a trading card game gives us a great big sandbox to kind of work in. So it makes it so that we have a little bit of choice and flexibility in the design decisions that we make. And it allows us to be like, okay, we have 5 amazing ideas. How do we know which one we want to use? And we can really stop and be like, okay, well, broad picture, what is going to be the thing that fits the theme? What is going to be the thing that fits the most? So even if something might be the coolest, we're like, oh, that is so cool, we definitely have to use it. We don't have to use it particularly in that moment, and we can save it for the thing that we think is going to work best for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of your like sort of like you said, you've been expanding your artist pool. I would kind of like to give a shout out to, I think it's Benjamin Paulos. Is that how you say his name? Oh my God, he's been knocking it out of the park with every single card. And like when you guys announced that's the Death Field.
Is
the going to be a playmat.
Reverend Deathfield.
Yeah. I've never been more happy. I paid the extra money to get the premium ticket or the premium ticket for Galactics. Then after that got announced, I was like, man, all right, there. The extra money is totally worth it, because I love the art, and I love basically every card he's done has just been great. But now for the artists, like how detailed are like the art briefs that you guys give them? Is it always very specific? Is it sometimes more general, or?
The basic heuristic is our job as writers is to tell the artist what to depict, and then it's the artist's job to determine how to depict that, and the art directors obviously direct them. So the heuristic is brevity is better.
They're a lot more brief than you think.
Yeah, the ideal art brief.
An art brief.
The ideal art brief is literally only 2 sentences long.
Okay.
Because, and here's the important thing, is that unlike other IPs that I've worked on, you don't need a lot of detail, because you just say, draw this character doing this action in this location, and if the artist doesn't know what those things are, which they probably don't, we say, here are dozens of pictures.
All the reference, yes.
And so actually a lot of the biggest element in many ways of the brief is actually the reference images that we provide them, not the actual words on the page.
Okay. So to that point, do you guys usually have like a specific scene or something a lot of times for a card? I mean, obviously if it's like, okay, this is the line of dialogue from the movie, we're going to use that scene.
Probably most of the time, but not always.
True. But when it's not necessarily something like that, you know, like the Maul and Qui-Gon, you know, you just say, okay, they've got to be from the moment in like that generator room or whatever it is that they're in episode 1. Or, you know, like you said, is it a little bit more just give me Maul and Qui-Gon or something like that?
So that depends on a lot of things. It depends on what the card type is. It depends on what the prospective card title is. Obviously, titles change a lot during development. It also depends on whether this is intended to be a scene or not, which I guess is kind of what I've been referring to, right?
Yeah, I mean, because if you just take those things that are in that space, right? So you got Qui-Gon, you've got Maul, and then you've got the generator room.
Yeah.
And so how do you compose that? It's going to be different if it's a unit, for instance, if it's a Qui-Gon unit, or if it's a Maul unit, or if it's an event, for instance, and you want to actually see the action of, like, for instance, them particularly crossing lightsabers or something, or running into one of those glowing force field walls. And then we might also just want to be focused on the location itself, like where the action is taking place on a base or something like that, which will completely change. Like all of the elements are still there, and that reference might still be there. It's just what we want to focus on, and that what Tyler's team dials in the briefs.
Yeah, so a lot of the finesse is, if it's a character piece, then we want to focus on the character, right? That means in most cases, you want to get rid of as much distracting background elements as possible, because this is really a portrait, right? You want to show Qui-Gon is being cool in the generator room. If it's a character piece, probably Maul, or vice versa, isn't there at all in the piece.
Yeah.
Because there's no point in cluttering up Qui-Gon's piece with all this Maul stuff. But if it's an event, if it's an upgrade where it's about the scene, then it's important to have both of them, because you're missing context if you're only seeing half of the scene, right? And then that's not even getting into the non-unique characters, the non-unique units, or the invented scenes, where it's like, this is an unnamed person who is wearing this costuming, doing a cool thing. Like, I don't know, they're a pickpocket, so they're doing a pickpocket thing. But it's not anyone we know. It's not from a scene from any movie or whatever. And so those then have a whole different set of sort of guidelines and boundaries, or guidelines and heuristics, because you need to make sure that you're not overdoing the storytelling, while also providing enough context so that people actually know what's going on.
You know, and truthfully, what card type it is and what purpose the card has can also affect how that brief is used. Like, if it's on a standard play card and it's going to go in a template, we'll call it like the small little letter box. That's a very small area to play in. So we want to be very careful about and judicious about what we show, so that we're making sure that we're focusing on what the intent is behind the design of the card and all of that stuff. Whereas if it's like a promo card and it's more about the aesthetics, like, we can push those a little bit further and have stuff like breaking out of frames and all of that stuff, which would affect how we would actually order the art for whatever that scene is.
So I believe that, like, the showcase, or the idea of doing showcases sort of came in partway through the development. Like, from what I remember hearing, it wasn't initially a thing.
It was pretty early.
Okay.
It wasn't in the first round of pitches, but it was pretty early.
Okay. Okay. So are you then giving the artist different specifics then for like a showcase piece, because it's going to fill the whole card versus the smaller frame?
Well, yes and no. We give them the same brief. We give them the same content of what they're putting in it, but then how the art director directs it is different.
Yes. Okay. Like, for instance, you might have a brief, like, we do this a lot in promo, where we will literally use the exact same art brief that was for standard, but it's, which template we provide to the artist so that they know where they're going to be painting and filling in space. And this is particularly important in the difference between, standard with that little letterbox format, and then, our promo cards, which often, are edge to edge or borderless, where the art is actually going all the way off the edges of the card.
Or heaven forbid, they spread onto other cards.
Or spread onto other cards, like triptychs and all that. So we get a really, once the art brief gets in our hands, there's still a lot of decisions and whatnot that get made that will impact how that piece works out, based on which art director is directing it, which artist gets the actual assignment, and there's a lot to play with in there. But that's one of the most exciting things about it, is we're never just cornered into one particular thing.
Well, and also is a little bit of a work saver, right? Because you can get 3 wildly different pieces from the same text source.
Yeah, especially if you go to different artists.
If you go to different artists, if you're putting it in different frames, if you're using different foil treatments, just small changes after the initial writing can drastically affect the outcome, which can get more mileage.
Yeah, and depending on the artist's workflow, this is the part that I think is the most interesting about my job, is that we'll send out that art brief, but generally speaking, at the very initial sketch stage, we'll get 2 or 3 or more sketches of how that artist is planning to compose the piece. So, might have somebody's lightsaber over here over their shoulder, or be like more gestural across their body, or, we're like, oh, we don't like how that hand is going to interact with where the aspect icons are going to be on the card, or, all of this other stuff. And so we can choose like our favorites amongst that. So it starts as a very, very broad lens, and then just it's more of a refining and focus process.
And that's one thing. That's one thing I was really curious about is like how much is there a back and forth between you and the artist throughout the process and the whole thing?
Oh, the art directors are in continual contact with every single artist that we work with. I would say that the major stages that we go through are they have their sketch stage, and then we have a work in progress stage, we call it a whip stage, and then of course we have proposed finals. And then we have finals once they actually get like fully approved and embedded.
They propose and we give feedback and then they change it.
Yeah, and sometimes depending on the complexity of the piece or the difficulty of the piece or all kinds, like how the artist is doing, it might take 2 revisions, it might take 10. It just really depends on the circumstance.
Or it might take 0, although that's not as common.
Is there ever a time where like maybe you guys say, okay, this is what we want for the card, but the art team is ever like, well, actually that might not work real great on here, or
this literally happened yesterday.
Yeah, we actually have a really open dialogue. Like it's a process, because like they will come up with their initial batches, and then we do an internal art review where the art team will review the briefs themselves and be like, hey Tyler, this is super sus. Like, are you sure we want to show this? Or like, this is too many characters, or this is complex, or hey, I don't know what this guy's lightsaber looks like. Can you help me out? So we have a lot of iteration back and forth. It's very rare that our art team will just be like, hey, development, that was a terrible idea. Can you start over again?
Well, our goal is to have simple enough ideas that we don't paint you into a corner.
It's our job to paint corners.
Nailed it.
So now with the artists and the pool expanding, is it all artists like outside who work on commission? Do you guys have an internal artists that are doing any of the artwork? I mean, I assume you have like internal like graphic designers and stuff that stuff, but the actual artwork itself. Yeah,
so basically our visual team is double pronged, as you suggested, with art and graphic design. And we have a little group of graphic designers, and we have a group of very talented art directors. Our art directors, for the most part, are either former illustrators that have been out in the wild doing this work for a really, really long time, even artists that we had worked with before.
I would say some of our art directors have credits in other games before they got hired.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so most of the time, because of the quick pace that we have in our workflow, the art directors don't usually do work themselves. They're mostly helping with our external artists and whatnot. However, there are instances in which case it is better suited for a project to have somebody in-house kind of take a crack at it. An example of this is one of our upcoming convention exclusive boxes. We actually needed the art to be less painterly and more of like a digital painting, and it had to have more vector shapes and whatnot and be more rigid so that we could work with it on a technical level. And so, one of our internal art directors had done a lot of like these droid illustrations that you'll see coming out soon.
Cool. You mentioned the quick pace. Do you know like about how far into like a set's development is the artwork starts?
What's wild, I don't know how much of this we're allowed to get into, but the development team literally gets the art briefs and stuff together the second they have a concept of what's going to go in the set. They might not have all of the mechanics even remotely roughed out, but they'll get those art briefs for us almost first thing, because basically what happens is those art pieces will get assigned, and during that is when they are in the deepest R&D phases, right?
The basic idea is that we commission art the second we have the set skeleton filled out. Probably it will be even sooner than that, because we just have so much art to produce, and we have to work within not only our timelines as game designers, but also the art directors' timelines and also the artists' timelines. And all of that, because the art needs to be done by the time the set's ready to hit print, which means that when you're making 300, 400 art pieces, collectively at a time, that's going to require so much time that it's basically the entire playtest process is also the art development process.
Yeah, so the art is sort of like the front of the train, really. I mean, like they have the engine, right? Like they're pulling this train along on a project, and the art really starts at the front, and then all of the play testing and continued game development and all that stuff is going on kind of in the middle, and then towards the end is when graphic design will actually start their process. And by the time the art is ready to come in, graphic design is usually in full swing, and they're like hungry for all of the art. They're ready to place assets. And then it's really graphic design that takes everything from all of the text that goes on the cards as an asset, knowing which icons go on which cards, which art pieces correlate to which cards, which titles, so on and so forth. And then it all matches together at the very, very end. And graphic design is usually like the tail end of it, the polishing steps, if you will. And then those go to internal review. And that's basically the process for R&D.
That's really cool. So I actually went to school for art. That's what I did. My wife's a graphic designer, so that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this interview, because it's all stuff that is very interesting to me. So like I, as an artist, have always been curious. Like what does it take to become an artist for a card game like this? Like, what advice would you have for an artist looking to get into it?
Yeah, I would say there's all of the usual key pieces of wisdom that you could probably throw out, but I would say that being consistent and confident are going to be the things that are going to serve you long term under the hood if you wanted to get into this sort of field. And I say that because I feel very bad sometimes, because you might have the most talented artist on the entire planet, but if they don't happen to connect with you at just the right time for just the right project, and the circumstances aren't just right, you might not line up. And it just breaks my heart to think that so many people feel that as a sting of rejection on them personally, when it might just be a mix of circumstances. And our artist pool has come from, I would say, a lot of different types of backgrounds, but it's a matter of experience. It's a matter of starting, and it's like, okay, if that didn't work, you try another thing. If that didn't work, you try another thing. And you just keep going until your skills are really honed in, and you're taking that feedback and you're making those corrections in order to get you to the caliber of being able to work on some of these bigger games where the bar is frankly higher. And the longer we go along and the more that we learn, the higher our bar internally is getting for what it is that we're looking for. And we're able to communicate that out to artists in the world, so that we can make sure that we are targeting exactly the kind of talent that we need at exactly the right moments in time. But I really think that it's patience and just not letting the things that might feel like you just stubbed your toe on a coffee table, right? Like not letting
Good
those
analogy.
things stop you and get you down. And I know that sounds like maybe cheesy or whatever, but really it's a thing that some of our best artists have, is they're just incredibly resilient.
And also because unlike a more, I'm going to say the words, more creative art field, we're not here to make, we are here to make the best final product, but we're here to make the best final product on demand within a time frame. And so you don't have as much time as you might need. And so the ability to work within other people's schedules, to work within other people's creative needs is also an important skill that not everyone has.
It's kind of like the same old thing you always saw in comic books. Like people were always like, why is this Rob Liefeld guy still working? He can't even draw feet. But people are like, well, he can meet a deadline.
Yep.
He can put out a comic book every month.
Well, and that's an interesting thing too, is like that feeling about aesthetic taste. It continues to grow and evolve, and like just because like we have one style that we're looking at for mainline doesn't mean like that's the only thing that we're ever going to be open to, or the only thing that we want to experience.
In fact, it explicitly isn't.
Yes, absolutely. Honestly, one thing that I can say is kind of a passion project for me, and I can also kind of speak for, our managing art director, because he and I have had lots of conversations about this. But this idea that we want to take Star Wars Unlimited and make it the place where artists want to be, that artists are vying to be in our game, and that we are being able to offer competitive rates and, all kinds of other things that would entice artists to come and work with us and to be worthy of getting that kind of caliber of artists that we're seeking.
I know you mentioned there's going to be an artist alley at Galactics where people will actually be able to meet some of the artists and get cards signed and things like that, I assume. So I'm very excited about that.
More on that later.
All right.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add.
Well, I think, that's, like I said, that's just something I've always been really, really curious about as an artist myself. And I think that's maybe a good place to wrap this up. Last question then, what is the art you can talk about anyways, your favorite art piece in the game?
You will never get one answer from either of us.
No, absolutely.
I mean, I know it's going to change all the time. Like for me, just right now, today, you guys previewed the new Darth Vader card.
Yeah.
And I'm all like, oh, it's finally the Darth
Twilight
Vader
of the
standing
Apprentice.
on the TIE Fighter. I've been waiting for one of those, and it's so cool. I love it.
I'm going to say that some of our art that is coming in for our prestige sets right now is among some of our favorites. I think we just talked about some pieces that are showing up, the diptychs and the triptychs, like the mortis.
Yep, the mortis mural.
God, the mortis mural, yeah.
So nice.
That we were talking about, the different things that we got, like that art piece. It's really funny when that art piece itself came in, the way that the artist had designed the whole thing and composed it actually gave us graphic design inspiration for like the different treatments that we did with the serialized foils for Prestige that are going to be coming out for the other cards. So there's like this thematic tie-in with it.
Cool.
And that's honestly some of the coolest stuff that we've made so far.
That's awesome.
that people are going to see soon.
Yep. Overwhelming Barrage, Showcase Cassian, Set 1 Leia. Set 1 Leia is always on the list. Those are go-tos from Spark. Avar Chris is an A+.
Oh God, that card looks so good.
And I was really invested in her, and boy, did they nail it. Who else? I'm trying to think of the ones that I didn't show off in the live stream. Mother Talzin. I mean, that's why I put her on the background for the live
Some
stream.
of our Dathomir Witch art.
Oh yeah, a lot of the
Dathomir
Dathomir pieces are actually really good. Even the base, the
so
Dathomir base is
visually
really
interesting.
good.
Yes.
Yeah. There's so many. There's all. I'm gonna say there's another. Did we show off the? Yeah, we showed off Sidious and Tyrannus, the diptych. That's probably my favorite of that set.
Yeah, there's a lot that's going to be coming out for Galactic Championship. In terms of art, we really we just tried a couple things. We tried a couple things, and in terms of, well, okay, I can't really even talk about it, but we tried a lot of things, and so some of the art pieces that are coming in that people are going to see at the Galactic Championship is some of the coolest stuff, because it really we push the envelope with things in terms of like just the way the art moves and whatnot. Like the Mace Windu that was
or Galactic Qui-Gon. Galactic Qui-Gon is maybe my favorite Galactic promo.
Yeah, those all the Galactics you've been showing up that with that new frame and the artwork in them, and like you said, like kind of overlapping some of the graphic design elements and stuff with the artwork. It's just all really, really cool, and makes me glad I was able to make it this year, Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm just really glad that I get paid to make things.
I just get to
play with
play in
Star
the
Wars all day. Yeah. Yeah.
No, as a person who went to school for art, I'm jealous. So. Well, thank you guys very much for taking the time to talk with me and inviting me down here to this lovely
Yeah,
studio of
cool
yours.
studio. We're glad that you're here.
Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you. Thank you.
Hey,